Rain lashed against the floor-to-ceiling windows of his downtown Atlanta office, mirroring the storm brewing inside Marcus King's phone as it buzzed silently on his mahogany desk. It was a dreary Tuesday afternoon in November, the kind of weather that made the steel and glass of the city look gray and uninviting. Marcus rubbed his temples, turning away from the blueprints of the new community center he was designing. He glanced at the framed black-and-white photograph on the corner of his desk. Deacon Eli King, his grandfather, standing proudly next to a cement mixer in 1965. The old man's eyes seemed to hold a silent reminder. Listen twice as much as you speak, son. The phone buzzed again. The screen lit up with the name Wifey, accompanied by a heart emoji. A soft smile touched Marcus's lips. He picked it up, expecting Keisha to ask him to pick up dinner or remind him about her sister's upcoming birthday. "Hey, baby," Marcus answered, his voice warm. "I was just thinking about you." Silence greeted him. Not the silence of a dropped call, but the cavernous, echoing silence of an open line. Then the sounds filtered through. The distinct high-pitched beep of a barcode scanner, and the low hum of expensive retail air conditioning. He recognized the ambient noise immediately. It was the designer wing of Lenox Square Mall. "Keisha," he said, frowning. "You there?" There was a rustling sound, like a phone sliding against fabric, and then her voice came through, muffled but unmistakably clear. She wasn't talking to him. "Girl, stop worrying," Keisha's voice rang out, sharp and amused. "Marcus won't suspect a thing. He thinks I'm at Bible study with your mom." Marcus froze, his hand tightening around the device. Another voice laughed. "Valerie, her sister. You are terrible, Keisha. But seriously, how long are you going to keep this up?" "Darnell is getting impatient." "Darnell can wait," Keisha scoffed. Marcus could hear the sound of hangers sliding across a metal rack. "Besides, I need to make sure everything is lined up before I make my move. You know Marcus. He's safe. He's predictable. He's boring." The word hung in the air of Marcus's office like smoke. Boring. He drove a Ford F-150 because it was reliable. He saved his money because he valued security. He thought they were building a future, brick by brick. "Boring pays the bills, though," Valerie pointed out, though she sounded more amused than defensive. "Barely," Keisha retorted, her tone dripping with disdain. "He's an architect, Val, but he acts like he's a school teacher. No swag. No ambition. Look at Darnell. Partner at his firm, drives that Porsche Cayenne, takes me to places where they don't even put prices on the menu. That's the life I'm supposed to be living. Not this penny-pinching life with Marcus." Marcus felt a coldness spread through his chest, numbing his extremities. Darnell. He knew the name. A flashy corporate lawyer seen often at the chaotic mixers in Buckhead. "So what's the plan?" Valerie asked. "January," Keisha said decisively. "I'm going to play the loving wife through the holidays. We have that big church gala this weekend, and I need to look the part of the devoted spouse to keep up appearances for the committee. But right after New Year's? I'm filing. My lawyer said if I time it right, I can claim he's been financially controlling and get a bigger settlement." "You're cold-blooded," Valerie laughed. "I'm practical," Keisha corrected. "Oh, and you know what he gave me for our anniversary last month? A poem. A handwritten poem about building a foundation of love." I almost laughed in his face. "Meanwhile, Darnell bought me this. Ooh, let me see. Is that Cartier? You know it. Now that is love, Val. That is value." Marcus looked down at his own hand, at the simple gold band on his finger. He remembered writing that poem. He had poured his soul into every line, sitting at this very desk late one night, thinking he was the luckiest man in Atlanta. Now he realized he was just a punchline. A mark. 7 months, Keisha, Valerie whispered, though loud enough for the microphone to catch. "You've been juggling them for 7 months. You deserve an Oscar." "I deserve an upgrade," Keisha corrected. "And come January, I'm getting it." Marcus stared at the black screen of his phone as the call disconnected, the silence in the room deafening, realizing that the woman he built his world around was actually an enemy plotting his destruction. Can you imagine the pain of hearing the person you love plot against you like that? If you're standing with Marcus right now, drop the number 8 in the comments to let me know you've got his back. And listen, this betrayal is just the spark for something much bigger. Make sure you are subscribed to the Black King channel and have that notification bell turned on, because you do not want to miss the moment Marcus turns this pain into power. The comeback starts now. Let's continue. The silence left by the disconnected call felt heavier than concrete, but instead of breaking down, a cold, unfamiliar clarity settled over Marcus. For a long time, he just sat there, staring at the rain streaking the glass, listening to the hum of the city below. Boring, she had called him. Safe. The words echoed in his mind, not as insults anymore, but as data points. She mistook his discipline for lack of ambition, his modesty for poverty. He packed his briefcase methodically, his movements slow and deliberate. He walked out of the office, nodding to his receptionist, Gloria, with a calm he didn't feel. "Have a good evening, Mr. King," she said. "You too, Gloria," he replied. His voice didn't shake. The drive home to Buckhead was a blur of red taillights and wet asphalt. Usually, turning onto his tree-lined street brought him a sense of peace. He and Keisha had picked out their condo together, a spacious unit with high ceilings and walls they had adorned with vibrant art from local Black artists. It was a home built on what he thought was shared taste and shared dreams. Now, as he unlocked the front door, the air inside felt stale, tainted by the ghost of a lie. He walked past the kitchen where they had cooked Sunday dinners, past the living room where they watched movies curled up on the sofa. He went straight to his private study, a room Keisha rarely entered because she found his collection of architectural history books dusty. Marcus closed the door and locked it. He went to the vintage wall safe hidden behind a framed print of the Edmund Pettus Bridge. His fingers dialed the combination from muscle memory. Right 19, left 65, right 03. The heavy steel door clicked open. Inside, resting on a stack of deeds and savings bonds, was a thick leather binder embossed with gold letters, the Eli King Trust. Marcus pulled it out and sat at his desk, flipping it open. The numbers stared back at him, black and precise. The trust, established by his grandfather from the profits of his construction empire, was valued at just over $2.3 million. It had been growing quietly, compounding interest, protected by an ironclad stipulation. Marcus could not access a single dime of the principal until his 35th birthday. That date was March 15th, less than 5 months away. He ran his hand over the paper. Keisha knew nothing about this. When they married, he had mentioned a small inheritance tied up in legal red tape, and she had lost interest the moment she realized it wasn't immediate cash. He had planned to surprise her on his birthday, to use the money to start his own firm and maybe buy that vacation home in Hilton Head she always talked about. He wanted to know she loved him for the man driving the Ford, not the man with the millions. "Well, Grandpa," Marcus whispered to the empty room. "You were right. You always said to watch how people treat you when the wallet stays closed." The grief was still there, a dull ache in his chest, but it was being rapidly overtaken by necessity. He pulled out a notepad and began to write. He wrote down everything he had heard on the call, the 7-month timeline, Valerie's involvement, the plan to file in January, the name Darnell. His phone buzzed on the desk, vibrating against the mahogany. A text from Keisha. "Traffic is crazy, babe. Just leaving the mall now. Can't wait to be home in your arms. Love you." Marcus looked at the message. The lie was so casual, so easily typed. A wave of nausea rolled through him, but he forced it down. He couldn't explode. Not yet. If she knew he knew, she would change her strategy. She would hide assets, spin narratives, or file immediately before he was ready. He typed back, "Drive safe. Dinner is on me tonight." He put the phone down. Then he picked it up again and dialed a number he had hoped never to use, but one his grandfather had made him save, just in case. It belonged to a woman known in Atlanta legal circles as the Iron Matriarch. The line rang twice before a smoky, authoritative voice answered. "Olivia Vance speaking." "Mrs. Vance," Marcus whispered into the phone, his voice steady as steel. "My wife thinks I'm weak. I need you to help me show her exactly how wrong she is." Olivia Vance's office smelled of old leather and expensive coffee, a fortress of solitude where marriages went to die, or in Marcus's case, where justice began. Located in a historic brownstone near Sweet Auburn, it was a world away from the glass towers of corporate Atlanta, but everyone knew this was where the real power brokers came when they needed a shark. Mrs. Vance sat behind her massive oak desk, her face impassive as the recording from Marcus's phone played. She listened to every cruel laugh, every calculated plan Keisha detailed about destroying Marcus financially. When the audio finished, silence hung heavy in the room. Mrs. Vance removed her gold-rimmed glasses and looked at Marcus with eyes that had seen everything. She played herself sugar, Olivia said, her voice like gravel and honey. In 40 years of family law, I haven't seen a woman hand over the playbook like this. She thinks she's hunting a rabbit, but she just woke up a bear. She plans to file in January, Marcus said, his hands clasped tightly in his lap to stop them from trembling. She wants to use the holidays to soften me up, make me think we're happy so I don't see it coming. Then we don't let her get to January, Olivia replied sharply, opening a fresh legal pad. We strike first. Georgia isn't just a no-fault state. Adultery bars alimony here if it's the cause of the separation. You have proof. You have the timeline. We file tomorrow. We freeze the accounts tomorrow. And we serve her right after her precious gala. She leaned forward, her expression softening into something maternal but stern. But listen to me closely, Marcus. The hardest part won't be the law, baby. It'll be the acting. You have to go home tonight and lie next to the woman who stabbed you in the back, and you cannot flinch. If she smells even a drop of suspicion, she'll hide money or destroy evidence. Marcus nodded grimly. I can do it. 2 hours later, Marcus pulled into his driveway. The smell of slow-cooked oxtails and collard greens hit him the moment he opened the front door, a scent that usually signaled comfort and love. Tonight, it smelled like deception. Soft R&B played from the kitchen speakers, Luther Vandross crooning about never too much, setting a scene of domestic perfection. Hey, handsome. Keisha breezed out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron. She looked beautiful, her smile radiant. She walked up and kissed him, and it took every ounce of Marcus's willpower not to recoil. Her lips felt cold, poisoned. Dinner smells amazing, Marcus said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I wanted to do something special, Keisha cooed, leading him to the table set with their good china. We've both been working so hard. Plus, I wanted to talk about the gala on Saturday. I really want us to make a splash, Marcus. Everyone is going to be there. Over dinner, she chattered about who was sitting at their table, the networking opportunities, the image they needed to project. Marcus ate mechanically, tasting nothing. Oh, and babe, Keisha said, pausing to refill his wine glass. I saw the most stunning dress at Neiman's today. It's perfect for the event, but it's a little pricey. $500. She looked at him through her lashes, the same look she used when they were dating. I know we're saving, but Valerie's friend Darnell is going to be there, and you know how judgy Val's crowd can be. I just want to represent you well. The name landed on the table like a grenade. Darnell. She was testing him. Or maybe she just wanted Darnell to see her in the dress Marcus paid for. Marcus wiped his mouth with his napkin, took a slow breath, and reached for his wallet. He pulled out his credit card and slid it across the tablecloth. Get the dress, Keisha, he said evenly. You should look your best. We want everyone to remember this night, right? Keisha's eyes lit up, not with gratitude, but with triumph. She snatched the card. Thank you, baby. You won't regret it. She didn't see the ice in his stare. She didn't see the man who was already calculating the legal fees. She only saw the boring husband she thought she had wrapped around her finger. As Keisha kissed his cheek goodnight, whispering a lie of love, Marcus lay awake staring at the ceiling, thinking, enjoy the dress, Keisha. It's the severance package you didn't know you were signing. Real power doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it pays the bill and waits for the right moment. If you respect how Marcus is handling his business, please comment the number 1 below. It tells me you're getting value from this story. And make sure you are subscribed to Black King with notifications on, because we are about to witness justice served cold. Thank you for your support. It keeps this channel alive. Let's continue. The grand ballroom of the Ritz-Carlton Atlanta was a sea of sequins and tuxedos, a dazzling display of black excellence that usually filled Marcus with pride. But tonight, the crystal chandeliers glittering overhead felt less like a celebration and more like the stage lights for a tragedy he was about to direct. Marcus adjusted his bow tie in the hallway mirror. It was a vintage silk tie his grandfather, Deacon Eli, had left him, a subtle nod to the legacy Keisha knew nothing about. Tonight, Keisha had demanded he look expensive to match the crowd. He looked in the mirror and didn't see expensive. He saw regal. He saw a man who was done pretending. "Marcus, come on, we're going to be late for the red carpet photos," Keisha hissed, grabbing his arm. She was wearing the $500 dress he had paid for, and admittedly, she looked stunning. But her beauty felt brittle to him now, like a veneer over rotting wood. They entered the ballroom, and Keisha instantly transformed. Her smile turned electric. She dragged Marcus from one socialite to another, introducing him with a dismissive wave of her hand. "This is my husband, Marcus. He's an architect," she'd say, her tone implying he's just an accessory, before turning her full attention back to the doctors and athletes in the room. Then Marcus saw him. Standing near the open bar, holding a martini like a prop, was Darnell. He looked exactly like his voice sounded, slick, polished, and arrogant. He was wearing a velvet dinner jacket and laughing too loudly at a joke made by a city councilman. Keisha's eyes darted toward Darnell, a secret, hungry glance she thought went unnoticed. Marcus felt a muscle in his jaw tighten. Instead of steering Keisha away, he guided her straight toward him. "You must be Darnell," Marcus said, extending his hand. Darnell looked surprised, his eyes flicking nervously to Keisha before landing on Marcus. He composed himself quickly, putting on a smooth, corporate smile. "I am. And you are?" "Marcus King, Keisha's husband." Marcus gripped Darnell's hand. He didn't squeeze too hard, just enough to let the other man feel the callus on his palm, the hand of a man who built things unlike Darnell, who only acquired them. "I hear you're a man who specializes in acquisitions, Darnell. Just remember, some assets are toxic. They look good on the balance sheet, but they ruin the portfolio." Darnell pulled his hand back, his smile faltering. "Is that right? I'll keep that in mind." "You do that," Marcus said, his voice level but piercing. The tension was broken by the announcement of the silent auction. Keisha pulled Marcus away, whispering furiously, "What was that? You were so rude." "I was just making conversation," Marcus replied calmly. During the auction, Keisha urged him to bid on a small spa package. "Just bid something, Marcus. We need to look involved. Don't be cheap tonight." Marcus looked at her, then at the auction sheet for the scholarship fund, the night's biggest ticket item. He took the pen and wrote down a number that made Keisha gasp. It was a donation of $10,000, signed anonymously in memory of Eli King. "Marcus," Keisha hissed, her eyes wide with shock and panic. "Are you insane? We can't afford that. The check is going to bounce." "No, it won't," Marcus said, buttoning his jacket. "I've been saving. For a rainy day. Or a special occasion." Keisha looked at him, truly looked at him, for the first time all night. Confusion clouded her eyes. She opened her mouth to ask where the money came from, but the event photographer appeared. "Oh, beautiful couple. Let's get a shot," the photographer chirped. Keisha's training kicked in. She turned to the camera, plastered on her brightest smile, and leaned into Marcus, resting her hand on his chest, the very chest she had stabbed in the back. Marcus stared into the lens. He didn't smile. He leaned down, his lips brushing her ear, intimate and deadly. "Smile, Keisha," he whispered, his voice barely a breath. "It's the last time you'll ever stand next to me." Keisha pulled back, her eyes wide with sudden fear, her mouth opening to ask what he meant. But before she could speak, the camera flash exploded in their faces, capturing the exact second her confidence began to crack, frozen forever in high definition. The morning sun over Buckhead usually brought Keisha a sense of promise, a golden glow that affirmed she had made it to the top of Atlanta's social ladder. But today, the sun felt intrusive, exposing the headache pounding behind her eyes from the gala's champagne. At 7 a.m., a sharp, insistent knock on the door shattered the quiet. Keisha stumbled to the foyer, wrapping her silk robe tighter. She assumed it was a delivery, maybe flowers from Darnell apologizing for his strange behavior the night before. She opened the door to find a man in a nondescript gray suit holding a thick manila envelope. "Keisha King?" he asked. "Yes," she frowned. "You've been served," he said flatly, thrusting the envelope into her hands before turning on his heel. Keisha tore open the seal. Her eyes scanned the legal jargon, her breath hitching in her throat. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Motion to freeze marital assets. Evidence of adultery. The filing date was yesterday. She stormed into the living room, papers clutching in her fist like a weapon. Marcus was there, dressed for work in a crisp navy suit, sitting in his favorite leather armchair, drinking coffee. He looked infuriatingly calm. "You filed." Keisha screamed, her voice cracking. "You serve me divorce papers? Are you insane, Marcus? You're ruining us over what? A misunderstanding? A rumor." Marcus didn't flinch. He set his coffee cup down on the coaster, a deliberate, precise movement that terrified her more than if he had thrown it. "It's not a rumor, Keisha," he said softly. "You're paranoid," she yelled, pacing the room, trying to regain control of the narrative. "I have been a devoted wife to you. I cook for you. I support you. I make you look good. And you treat me like a criminal because I have friends? Because I talk to people." "Friends," Marcus repeated. "Is that what Darnell is?" Keisha froze. "I told you he's Valerie's friend." "I barely know him." Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He placed it gently on the coffee table between them and pressed play. The sound was crystal clear. It wasn't the ambient noise of a restaurant. It was the echo of a store, and then her own voice filled the room, loud and undeniable. "He's safe. He's predictable. He's boring." Keisha's face went ash gray. "I'll file in January. Darnell is everything he isn't. He drives that Porsche Cayenne. That is love, Val. That is value." The recording played on, dissecting her betrayal with surgical precision. Every insult she had hurled at him, every detail of her 7-month affair, every laugh at his expense hung in the air like toxic gas. Marcus stopped the recording. The silence that followed was absolute. Keisha sank onto the sofa, the fight draining out of her legs. She looked at Marcus, and for the first time she didn't see the safe architect. She saw a stranger. A dangerous stranger. She stammered, tears welling up, real tears this time, born of terror. "Marcus, baby, please." "I was confused. I was scared. Darnell, he manipulated me. He got into my head. It didn't mean anything. I was just talking trash with Val. You know how we get." She crawled toward him, reaching for his hand. "I love you. I chose you. We can fix this. Don't throw away 8 years because I made a mistake." Marcus stood up, stepping out of her reach. He looked down at her, his expression not angry, but filled with a profound, distant pity. "You didn't choose me, Keisha," he said, his voice deep and final. "You settled for me while you auditioned for him. You said you wanted a man with ambition? A man who takes what he wants." He picked up his briefcase. "Well, you got your wish. You didn't want me to be better. You wanted me to be him. Now you can have him." "Marcus, no. Please," she sobbed, clutching the hem of his pants. "He won't take me. He doesn't want me like that." "I know," Marcus said, gently pulling his leg away. "But that's not my problem anymore." He walked to the door, his footsteps heavy on the hardwood floor they had picked out together. He opened it, letting the morning air rush in. "Marcus!" Keisha screamed, her voice raw and desperate, echoing off the high ceilings of the luxury condo she could no longer afford. He didn't look back. He stepped out, and the heavy thud of the door closing behind him sounded like the final gavel in a courtroom. 3 months later, the Georgia winter had thawed into a hopeful, vibrant spring. The dogwood trees were beginning to bloom, painting the city in strokes of white and pink. For Marcus, the changing season mirrored his own life. The cold, dead weight of betrayal had finally melted away, leaving behind fertile ground for something new. It was March 15th, his 35th birthday. Marcus stood in the quiet solitude of the Southview Cemetery, one of the oldest African-American cemeteries in Atlanta. He placed a simple bouquet of lilies on the granite headstone of Deacon Eli King. "I did it, Grandpa," Marcus whispered to the wind. "I held my peace. I protected the name." He wasn't just talking about the divorce. The legal battle had been swift and brutal for Keisha, but quiet for him. Thanks to Olivia Vance's ironclad strategy, Keisha walked away with exactly what the law required: half of their modest marital savings and the used furniture she had purchased. No alimony. No claim to his future. As for Darnell, Olivia had quietly forwarded the ethics complaints to the senior partners at his firm. He hadn't been fired publicly, but he had been encouraged to resign and move to Charlotte, leaving Keisha behind without a second thought. "Happy birthday, Mr. King." Marcus turned to see Olivia Vance walking up the path, holding a thick leather binder. She looked impeccable in a cream suit, a smile of genuine warmth on her face. "Mrs. Vance," Marcus smiled. "You didn't have to come all the way out here. I promised your grandfather I'd hand-deliver this when you turned 35, she said, handing him the binder. "The Eli King Trust is officially yours. The principal, plus interest compounded over 30 years. The current valuation is just over $3 million. Marcus took the binder. It was heavy, but it didn't feel like a burden. It felt like a torch being passed. "Keisha heard rumors," Olivia added quietly. "News travels fast in Atlanta. She knows you came into something, but she doesn't know how much." "It doesn't matter what she knows," Marcus said, not opening the binder. "She never knew me." Later that afternoon, Marcus parked his Ford F-150 in front of a dilapidated brick building in the Sweet Auburn district, the historic heart of Black enterprise in the city. The windows were boarded up, and the roof needed work, but Marcus saw the bones of the structure. He saw the history. He spread a set of blueprints on the hood of his truck. He wasn't going to buy a Porsche. He wasn't going to move to a penthouse. He was going to buy this building and turn it into the Eli King Community Center, a space for young artists and aspiring architects to learn their craft. His phone buzzed. He looked down. It was a text from a number he had deleted but recognized immediately. "Happy birthday, Marcus. I heard you're doing well. I miss us. I miss who we were. Can we just talk? Coffee?" It was the final test. The old Marcus, the nice guy, might have felt a pang of guilt. He might have wanted closure. But the man standing in the sunlight today knew better. She didn't miss him. She missed the stability he provided. And now, she missed the wealth she suspected he had. Marcus didn't reply. He didn't feel anger or hate or even sadness. He felt nothing but the peace of a lesson learned. He pressed delete, then block. A contractor pulled up in a pickup truck, leaning out the window. "Mr. King? You ready to get started on this demo?" Marcus looked up from his phone, the screen now dark. He looked at the old building, then at the bright blue Atlanta sky. He smiled, a genuine deep smile that reached his eyes. "Yes, sir," Marcus replied, rolling up his sleeves. "Let's get to work. We have a future to build."